So we're going to be talking about consonants in English, and consonants in English can be divided up into two main ways. So across the top here we're going to divide them up into what's called the place of articulation, meaning where they're made in the mouth or with the way that you make the sound, so where is it made. And then across this side here we're going to have what's called the mode of articulation, which is how it's made using that part from up here. So when you cross these over, you're going to have how it's made and where it's made. So when we'll start with the places. So when you make sounds in the consonants in English, you're going to make sounds starting at the front of your mouth with both your lips. When we use both our lips, we call that bilabial. Bi meaning two, and labials being your lips. So you got bilabials, and then if you use your bottom lip and your top teeth, like with f and v, you were going to call that labiodental. Labial being lip and dental being your teeth. If your tongue comes between, now we're going to start using your tongue, so we're leaving the front of the mouth and moving into the mouth, and when you make sounds with your tongue coming between your teeth, we're going to call that interdental. Inter being between, and dental your teeth. If we move back from there, so inside the mouth now, if your tongue actually doesn't come to your teeth but comes up and right behind your teeth, where it's sort of bumpy there, we're going to call that the alveolar ridge. So alveolars, interdentals, labiodentals, and bilabials. And then from alveolars we have the palatals. The palatals are made, so if you take your tongue and you put it to the roof of your mouth, right behind your teeth, you have the alveolars. As you move it back from there, it's going to stop being bumpy, and that's called your palate. So the sounds that are made there are called palatals. Moving back from there, it stops being hard and starts to get soft as you move your tongue back. Those are called velars because they're made, and that part of your mouth is called your velum, on the roof of your mouth. And then we have sounds that are actually not made with the tongue. They're made with the throat actually constricting. So when the throat constricts, that's called glottals. And the glottis is the part in your throat that uses that to make you make those sounds. So those are all the places here. We've got places using both your lips, bilabials, labiodentals using your lip to your teeth, interdentals with your tongue coming between your teeth, alveolars, the bumpy part right behind your teeth, palatals, the smooth part behind the alveolar ridge, velars, the soft part behind the palate, and then the glottals, the sound made in your throat. So if we go from there, now if we look at the mode of articulation, or how the sounds are made, we have about 5 or 6 major groups. So we have stops. Now stops are called that because air stops from coming out. So air is leaving the mouth and then a stop stops them from coming out. Things like p, where your mouth closes right around it. Then we've got things called nasals. Air isn't coming out the mouth here, but air is coming out the nose. Then we've got fricatives. Fricatives are made with a closure in the mouth, but it's not all the way closed. It's closing, but not closed. So a fricative causes air to get turbulent on its way out, but it can still get out. And then we have what are called the approximants. Approximants are sounds that are made with less turbulence than a fricative, but not quite all the way open in your mouth. So when we actually start to put the sounds in here, if we look at something like this space here, we've got a bilabial stop. So places that are made with both your lips and air isn't allowed to come out. So we have 2 of those in English. We have p and we have b. So pill and bill. Then if we move from there, moving backwards along the stops, we don't have any labiodental stops in English. We don't have any interdentals, but we do have alveolar stops. So stops that are made with the tongue coming up right behind the teeth, and those in English are your T, till, and D, dill. So if we go from there, the palatals, we don't have any of those, but we do have velar stops in English. And velar stops are going to be k and g. So cage and gauge. And then we actually have a glottal stop too. And the glottal stop in English is a sound you make when we have a word or a phrase like uh-oh. That sound you make at the middle of uh-oh is the glottal stop. Air is stopping from coming out. You can't get air out in the middle of uh-oh, and you're stopping it. So from there now, if we look at the nasals, bilabials, bilabial nasal is going to be your M. So again, there's no air coming out the mouth when you make an M sound, but it is coming out your nose. And you can do that by sticking your finger under your nose. And when you make an M sound, you should feel air coming out there. The next nasal we have in English is an alveolar, and that's your N sound. So again, you should feel your tongue coming up in your mouth to right behind your teeth, and no air coming out your mouth, but if you do this again, you'll feel air coming out your nose. And your velars, we have one too, and that's the ang sound, the sound you make in words like ing, parking, taking, going. From there, we now move to the fricatives. Fricatives, we don't have any bilabial fricatives in English, but we do have labiodentals. And the labiodentals are your F, and your V. So your F and your V, they're fricatives. You can make an F or a V for as long as you have air. And V, but a P or a B has to stop basically as soon as you close the mouth, as soon as you make the stop. Interdentals, we have the th sound. The th sound is going to be your interdental fricatives. From there we have the alveolars. So this is again sound made with the tongue coming right behind the teeth. And in English, those are your s and your z. The palatals are going to be the sounds we make when we do sh, as in she, and zh. Zh in English is a sound in a word like pleasure. And also if you speak French, or if you remember any of your French from grade or high school, that's the zh for I. That's the sound at the start of that. For your velars, we don't have any velar fricatives, but we do have a glottal fricative, and that's the sound we make with H, the letter H. When we go, hello. And then we have actually and then we have the approximants. The approximants that we have are going to be made in the alveolar area. There's going to be two of them. You got your L and your R. And the R in English is upside down, and that's how we write it in linguistics, but the R is going to be your red, and the L is going to be the L sound we make, like little. And again, those are both like a fricative in the sense that you can extend them, but they're even more open and less turbulent. And then we also have two more. You have the J sound, what we write as a J, and that's your Y for yes, and then a W that's made in the velar area, which is the sound we have for what. And then we actually have two sounds that come here, and these are called affricates. And affricates are made by combining two sounds. So an affricate is found at the start and the end of the word church, and at the start and the end of the word judge. Those are two affricates in English. And actually what we're doing there is we're actually putting a T and a sh together to make church, the sound in church. That's your ch. And you can tell that because if you try to extend the affricate ch, you're going to be making this sound, the she sound. So church, sh. So we're going to actually write that just that way. The T and then the sh sound. And we're going to put a little line over them called a ligature so that we know that it's one sound happening at once and not two different sounds happening separately. And the judge sound we're actually going to make the same way. Judge, we're going to be making that zh sound. So we've got the D and the zh. The D and the zh. And so when we look at this, we've got 24 consonants in English, and there they are.